Hello, my beautiful people. We are back on our amazing Microsummit on body, mind, and soul providers. We are back here, and today we have such an amazing topic, a heavy one. Let's face it, a heavy one, but a beautiful one that we want to bring some light towards it. So thank you so much for everyone for being here, watching live or replay. Please say hello. Let us know where you're tuning from. Connect with these beautiful speakers that we have today. And let's do a quick introduction before anything else, so you know who is here to bring some light in your life. So we're going to say hello to our beautiful co-hosts, Michelle and Lorna. Hello, my beautiful ladies. It's always a pleasure to do such a beautiful work with you. And then we have other beautiful speakers today that they take their time to be with us here today. So thank you to each one of you. My name is Adriana Di Marvel. I'm your co-host. And we have Lorna. Say hello, Lorna. There you go. Let us know where you're tuning from.
I'm here in beautiful British Columbia on the western side of Canada.
Amazing. And then we have Michelle.
Good morning, everybody. I'm saying hello from the far left coast of Canada on Vancouver Island. I call myself the natural entrepreneur, and really pleased to be with you here today.
Amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're going to go to our beautiful panelists today. We have Nancy. Let us know where you're tuning from. No, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry. I'm having to change screens like I'm not used to doing with this iPad. I'm in San Diego, California. Anything else you want me to say?
And your title, and we'd love to hear your title. Your title.
My title. I'm a pet loss and grief expert and specialist, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a certified life coach for over 45 years. I know I look much younger.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much for being here. And let's move on to Alex.
Good morning, everyone. I am a French transplant into the US. I've been here for 40 years and I am now living in New Jersey. And I'm a women's empowerment coach, and I work with women who find themselves newly single, whatever their situation is, and I help them to rebuild their life on their terms.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was such a beautiful background. Don't you guys think it's such a beautiful background? Thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, Dr. Tanya English.
Hi, everybody. I cheered when you said New Jersey because I'm a Jersey tomato, but I'm transplanted into Iowa, so I'm in the Midwest now. I'm in Coralville, Iowa, right next to Iowa City, where the Big Ten University is. And I've been helping women to go from grief to grace and find treasure in tragedy. Been working for over 35 years in healing, first as a massage therapist and then as a chiropractor and energy healer. And I help women who have experienced loss at any time in their life to move into the future and allow themselves to walk through the valley of the shadow and not pitch a tent and live there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We are so excited to dive deep into this subject. Like I said, is why we choose to do this micro summits, because they are subjects and themes that everybody's looking for solutions. And that's why we're here at the Body, Mind, and Soul. Our purpose and our mission is to bring the right people to come into this space where they can share their own knowledge and experience with the people that needs to hear this. There's so much need in this world, and then we have so many people with so much experience, and that's why we're here to connect and collaborate and help and bring a little bit more light in this world. So thank you so much for everyone for watching, for being here. If you have any questions, we're gonna watch on our phones. We're gonna make sure that we have all your questions. If you have any questions, we can address those too. And we're gonna dive deep in this subject. We talk about grief today. And like I said, it's a heavy subject and so many people try to avoid it, but we can't avoid it. It's part of being a human. Sooner or later, we're all gonna go through this. sooner or later we're going to be the one that someone else is going to grieve of. So it's a subject that it's important to speak about and stop avoiding it. And that's why you have these beautiful amazing speakers today, so they can bring us a little bit of understanding what exactly it means and how we can live with it, not to fight it. I heard the quote not long ago when they say that grief needs to be shared, not judged. And that's something that it impacted me in that moment. It's something that we're all going through. So as we already know a little bit each other, now we're going to dive a little bit deeper, and I'm going to have Lorna, my beautiful co-host. She's going to be the one that's going to take us to the second round. Lorna?
Thank you. And I want to also express my great appreciation to each of you, to you, Alex and Nancy and Tanya, for being here and all that you are and all that you bring to this. I know it comes from very much your own experience and the grieving that has gone on. And sometimes when we think of grief, right away we think of, someone, a person in our life dying. And as each one of you brings forward, you have your own experience, in some ways a non-traditional way of looking at grief, an angle of grief that is not often recognized or spoken about. So we just really want to thank you for what you bring to it, and how you will share your experience, your wisdom, and your insights that will allow, as Adriana said, to bring light to the situation. And we're not talking about just even a lightening up, but to shine the light on it, to be able to really look at it through different perspectives and create a space where that it is something that we go through. And as Tanya said, it's not something where we pitch our tent and live in there, but we can actually thrive on that. You, Nancy, as well, you spoke about with the as with the pets, and you have your book, I Miss You Already. And this aspect of the anticipatory grief. Sometimes when we think about the grief, we think about after the fact or when in the process, but that journey of when you were anticipating that death of someone or pets or a career or an identity, all of those things will come up in relationship. It brings a whole new angle to that. And Alex, with you, to be able to look at things from a relationship of how is that when a relationship ends, how is that grief? How do you use that? What is it like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And how do you come forward from that? We also had Georgiana, who was going to be one of our panel speakers and was unable to for health. So we really want to hold space for you, Georgiana, and really wish you well, and allowing that, that you're exactly where you need to be right now, and we send you all love and healing for that. So in our time together, what we would love to do is we're actually going to shift a little bit now into Michelle is one of our body, mind, and soul people in terms of the administrators and creators of this. We're shifting her actually down into the panel role as well, because Michelle, when you did your introduction, we know you're from Vancouver Island, but if you would share as well what it is, why we felt that what you will speak about in our topic of grief, one of the facets of grief, where your experience is so relevant to that. So if you would share a bit about your experience as well as a part of your title and your introduction that way, please.
Oh, sweet, sure. And I would consider it being moved up into the panel, considering these lovely ladies' experience. So thank you very much for being here. I'm not an expert on grief by any means, except for the lived experience of being a special needs mom. And the death of ego, the loss of identity, chronic ambiguous loss, and the loss of an expected future are what I'll be speaking to today, and hopefully bringing some tips and tricks from lived experience and some stories to help light that up. So that's why I felt called to shift into that. Normally, I'm a digital marketer who's a social entrepreneur raising money to support respite and homeschool for special needs families. So that's my technical calling, but I love working here in Body, Mind, and Soul with Adriana and Lorna to bring care and healing providers to those who need them. So lovely to be with you here today, and that's what I plan to cover.
And thank you for correcting me on that spiraling. Sometimes you're right, some spiraling down. You're right, it's a spiraling into the panel. So I want to hold that vision exactly for that. So thank you, Michelle, for catching me on that one and really allowing us to elevate our beautiful speakers into the light that they are and that they are sharing with us. So let's go ahead and begin with our first round. What we're going to do is do a bit of a an overall aspect of things. Is first of all, what is it that because grief looks different for people, what is it that, how do you define grief? And so these are some of the things that we had put out to you before to just reflect on, to find out, because sometimes we go through and we can sort of assume we know what it is, but to actually verbalize it becomes a different experience. So if you could go ahead and take a moment, and how do you define grief? And if you could just go ahead and put your virtual hand up and then just go ahead and speak to it that way, please. I'll call on you as you put your hand up. Okay, Tanya, please go ahead.
I have a very simple definition of grief. Grief is the imprint of where love has been.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Alex.
So in the context of losing relationships, grief is really mourning not just the history, but it's also mourning the future. And also part of that is also mourning our identity, right? Because the label that we used to wear of wife is no longer going to be part of our identity.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Nancy, please.
I'm going to turn the fan on and then it'll fine. Yeah.
Let's see. Can you hear me? I'm still,
Yes.
am I muted? Unmuted? Okay.
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Grief, by definition for me, is the emotional, mental, and spiritual and physical expression of loss, most particularly that has meaning. And the deeper the meaning of the relationship, the deeper the meaning of the loss, the deeper the grief is.
Michelle, if you would please share with us.
I once heard grief, and I can only describe it experientially, but I once heard grief described as a ball inside of a box, and it when it bounces, it hurts, and so as time goes on, grief shrinks, and so the ball moves around more, and so you don't feel it as much until something jiggles it and it bumps, and I feel like it's this recurring thing over time that gets triggered. And I love that definition of the imprint where love once was, because it's where the emotions interface for me.
Thank you so much. All right, let's go into it. And again, just in this, I won't use the timer. Later on, we'll use the timer just so you can sort of really sink into it, and yet allowing for everybody to have their shared piece. Why do you think it is that grief is not spoken about freely? And I have one of my colleagues says, she said when she moved from Europe to Canada, she said one of the things that doesn't exist here, two things that don't exist here, sex and death, and two of the things that we really don't talk about. So I'd love to hear you share about why it is that you think death is not freely spoken about, grief is not freely, that it can be an awkward topic, if you will. And again, just go ahead with your hand up. Tanya, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's not talked about because it's the Puritan way is to hide the things that are messy and that don't look perfect. So sex and death, are you kidding? How could they be perfect, right? So we just had a incident here. I call it an incident because it is, of our senator saying at a town hall meeting, well, we're all going to die. as if people didn't know that we were all going to die. They're talking about cutting Medicaid and cutting Medicare. And boy, did she get booed on that. And then doubled down on it, saying, I didn't know people were there that didn't believe that there was death. So she's being nasty to people as well. This is what the problem is that people don't want to talk about it. And so they become sarcastic and angry because they can't actually relate their feelings about something because it's not done. So in this society, we have created a place where you can't talk about things because that's what not, you can't talk about money either, by the way. You're not supposed to talk about that. So if we can't talk about sex, we can't talk about death, we can't talk about money, it's hi, how are you? I'm fine. And fine stands for frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And so when somebody says they're fine, say, but are you really fine? Do you want to think about that for a minute? Because we're not allowed to use those words. Like men have two emotions. They're allowed to be happy and they're allowed to be angry, maybe. But that's it. I have a chart on the wall here of 140, I see it right there, 140 emotions. 70 of them are positive, 70 of them are negative. Wonderful. And as we're identifying emotions, which is our guidance in our life, our emotions are a gift. Right. And if we're not allowed to use our gift, then what happens? We walk around in fear. And fear is what creates wars and famine and all the ugly things in life. So if you're not allowed to talk about it and you're not allowed to express your feelings, like people are always apologizing for crying. Like, I'm like, don't apologize for crying. Cry all you want. You're cleaning out. This is your cleansing time. Go ahead and cry. Is it? But it's just so embarrassing. Why should it be embarrassing to have an emotion?
Beautiful.
I mean, that's an emotion too, embarrassment. But
yeah,
this is why, because we were founded here by Puritans. I believe that's why. And it's just filtered down. I mean, Germanic people came here. They don't talk about anything. But in Germany, right, they're a lot more free. Right. What they talk about. But over here, no.
That's true. Thank you, Tanya. You have dropped many nuggets of gold and wisdom in there. Thank you so much. Alex, please.
So when I think about why not, I think it's part of it is because of Hollywood, right? Because Hollywood talks and fairy tales. How many cartoons have we seen as children where happily ever after is the goal? Talking about grief really flies in the face of happily ever after. And it confronts people with their own fears about love, about failure, about worth. And I agree with what Tanya said in that people don't like feeling the negative emotions. And yet the negative emotions are kind of, like you said, they are our signals, right? And sometimes we also don't want to feel the positive ones because we might have trauma or whatever else is going on. But in the context of a relationship, people don't want to talk about it because they're like, well, I hope that that's never me, or I hope that doesn't happen to me, or oh, that's their story. It could never be my story. So confronting grief around losing a relationship is really putting people's nose up into their fears. And it also may make them feel guilty because it's not their current experience. So there's another reason why they don't want to talk.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing those very rich perspectives. Thank you so much. Nancy, please go ahead and share with us.
I think what's been said so far is really good. I agree with, and what I would add, I guess, is that where this really starts is way back in very early, really when we're born, we come out of the womb crying, which is a natural expression of grief from having lost what we just knew, and we don't know where we're at, but we're shushed. We're told not to, cry. parents usually, try and soften all that. And throughout the rest of our childhood, we're not educated about these feelings, about what loss and grief is and how to express it. And when we don't have knowledge, when we don't understand, we have fear. It's a natural human response to not understanding. And so we move away from what we don't understand and what we're kind of told in one way or another not to learn or figure it out or express it. And so for me, one of my biggest missions in all that I do and in all my writing is to educate people about the value of embracing and understanding what grief is, and not to be afraid of it, to see the value that comes out of doing that, especially if you're being mentored and supported. So that's what I would add.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Michelle, please go ahead and share with us. And you're muted. We'll just, there we go.
Thanks. I think all of those things apply. I think from the special needs parent twist angle, there's probably three quick things that I would say. One is that a lot of the times you don't feel valid in having your grief because you're not the impacted child. And that's just your job as a parent. So you feel selfish for having that. You don't want to put secondary trauma on people for sharing grief that you shouldn't have in the first place. And also the angle, sometimes I think this might be a little bit more ubiquitous, is the stigma, almost like mental health, where if you're grieving, you're not in the right place, you're not in your right mind, like you're not thinking correctly, there's something wrong, like that there's inherently something off or bad about experiencing grief as a parent. It's a sensitive issue. It can be a triggering issue in the special needs community because, for example, from self-advocates' perspective, why would you have grief? You're not the one that the system is impacting. Like if you're a neurotypical parent, and don't be a martyr, sort of thing. So there's actually literally a pushback on it as well. So it's quite a complicated topic in the special needs field.
Thank you for sharing. And that leads into what I'd love to do is create the space, as we hold the space for you, to speak to this aspect of how grief has shaped you and the work that you are bringing in the world. And, as we talked about at the very beginning, each of you brings to it what we could term as a non-traditional experience of, approach to, and use of grief in your own life, as well as what you do in your work. So if you could each just sink into that. I'm going to put the timer on, actually, and we'll do 3 minutes. And I know that in some ways it seems like it'll go fast, but I want you to really sink into that time and to share. And I know that some of the things that are still unspoken will have opportunity through some of the other questions, as well at the end of the time, anything that still is there that you would love to share with us. So we really want to create this space for you to share all that is moved to be shared today. So in this case, again, it is, how has your experience with grief shaped you, and from that, your work in the world? So again, we'll use our virtual hand when you're ready to share. Tanya, please go ahead and share with us.
Okay, I keep hitting it first, so if somebody would rather go first. But I'll tell you, I've talked about it a lot, and I've actually, I'm in this book, Resilient AF. It's volume 2. And the thing that I've written about in here is the stillbirth of my first son. And what happened during that time It was 30 years ago last April. He'd be 31 this year if he had lived. Now, just to put your mind at rest, I have another son who was born after him. But what happened to me was we were trying to have our baby at home. Things didn't go well, and we went to the hospital. The doctor that met us at the hospital started to blame the people who we were working with for my son's death, and we said, we're not going there. And my mother-in-law followed her into the break room and fired her from our case. We got another doctor in who helped us birth the baby. And while I was laying in the bed on an epidural and Pitocin, two of the things I never wanted to have happen, a thought came into my mind. Do you really believe everything happens to the highest good? Or are you just saying that because it sounds good? And I thought, well, let me go down the road of this is terrible and there's nothing good about it. And that didn't go very well. So I saw myself really in desperate need. And then when I went down the road of, okay, I'm going to look for the good, things started to change. And I saw my husband sitting to my left, helping me breathe. I saw my sister-in-law on my right, helping me push. My in-laws were there. Friends from school came. I was just about to graduate from chiropractic college. And I thought, I can count this good because there's something good here. I'm going to find it. And that's the point that I try to make to people is you have to take action. So you have to seek, or you have to knock on the door, and you have to keep asking for what it is that you want. So I said, God, put me wherever I need to be for healing. And I went to the Mississippi Valley Blues Fest that year and went into the tent stage where the Blind Boys of Alabama were playing and had a healing with them. In that tent stage performance, I mean, I felt waves and waves of love flowing through me. Fast forward 25 years, I'm at their concert having dinner with them because my friend told them about me, and she was best friends with the last original Blind Boy of Alabama, who's in his 80s now. And she said, he wants to meet you. So I went and had dinner with them. I've been friends with them ever since. And two of the guys who are in the band are still in the band who were there that night. And then I was playing at the Mississippi Valley Blues Fest with my blues band and delivering healing with the blues. So things can come around full circle. If you keep looking for the good, there's treasure in there. And you can have those blessings that are waiting for you because it's not just about the loss. It's about what you do afterwards. It's about what you do with that pain and how you use it for your highest good and for the highest good of people around you. You're not there forever. That's why I say walking through the valley.
Rich. Thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing. Nancy, please go ahead and share with us how your experience with grief has shaped you and the work that you are doing in the world.
Well, I can go back sort of on what I said earlier about the early childhood experiences we have are so impactful on this subject. And my first experience that I remember about death, which feeds into my work with pet parents and euthanasia, is that I had a turtle. I had a little tiny turtle. I took the turtle outside to give him some sun. I forgot about the turtle. The turtle walked off and I ended up finding him dead. Tremendous guilt. No one helped me with that. I don't remember anything about that, but I carried that guilt for a long time because it was my fault. So I think it really impacted me a lot. And then to add to that, like not talking about it, my 6th grade teacher passed. I didn't know it. Years when I was actually an adult or somewhere after high school, I think, I found out from my mother because I said I wanted to go see him. Well, lo and behold, he had died years before and she didn't tell me. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? I could have, I would have wanted to say goodbye if I could have. Again, the lack of education about grief and about the permission to have a normal, natural response. So it is definitely, I had many losses after that. I had a car accident and dealt with the loss of my functioning, my body, my closing my business, and many, many, many losses. And as I became, you know, a therapist, I realized every presenting problem that clients brought in always had some degree of loss involved, loss and grief. So that is how I really learned over, you know, just even those first 30 years before I entered into the pet loss grief, that life really can be spelled LOSS. And if you learn what it really means and how to navigate through it and beyond it, and as a, you know, people have here said, make some meaning out of it, it's really a very profound sacred experience. So that's how it's affected my work.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for sharing. And shivers and chills with these beautiful shares, the impact of things. Thank you. Alex, let's please go ahead to you next.
So it's interesting because I've witnessed grief in relationship in different ways. My parents got divorced when I was 21, and I felt like my world was falling apart. It almost felt worse than if I had been a kid, because it felt like my whole life was built on a house of cards. I experienced loss when I left my former husband in a different way because I grieved before I left. And by the time things were said and done, I was done grieving because I had done all my grieving ahead of time. And then I looked at it through his eyes and how it must have felt for him to hear the news, I want out, right? And the grieving that he must have gone through. And what it's taught me over the years is to really hold that space and to know that everybody's grief experience is different. They grieve for different reasons, they grieve different things, but all of it is valid. And being able to honor that space for them and give them the opportunity to honor their own truth while navigating the whole guilt, shame, and all of that that comes along sometimes with the grief is the best gift in a way that I can give them in my work so that they can rebuild from a place of I feel seen, I feel understood, and that helps that begins to help them to rebuild their confidence.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. And I'm seeing comments here for Tanya's recognition, that resonance as well. Absolutely. Let's go to you now, please, Michelle.
In my circumstance, it's sort of the angle that I take is instead of sort of like a focal point, one-time loss, it's more of kind of a continuous, ambiguous loss. But I can kind of use a particular instance in my own life to kind of connect how it all comes together and how it shaped my work. You do have, parents often carry an unconscious roadmap of, what their child's life are going to look like. They'll be talking by a certain age, and friendships in school and independence and marriage, and each missed milestone is sort of, or new diagnosis can kind of trigger a mourning process for an imagined future, sadness and denial and fear and, I shouldn't feel this way. And then there's the sort of the chronic piece about like, milestones. It's a bit ambiguous because the child is physically present, but the typical development experience may be actually absent or different. So you're looking for something that isn't there and never was and won't be, but you expected it to. So there's a little bit of difference that way. But for me, what I wanted to focus in on and what shaped my work was the grief over the lack of validation and support, especially from a systemic perspective. You know, government insurance definitely don't show up. My particular instance was in school, and my son, punchline of that was he was locked in a buzzer locked room, not allowed to see peers or go outside, and zipped into a tent when he would self-injure, and basically guarded by two people, sort of not with a school shooter protocol if he escaped his room. So, you know, the punchline of that that kind of shaped I had done very well in school, and I had expected my children to do well in school. And, so there was sort of like the loss of, oh my gosh, like trust in the systems and trust in, how people would show up and perceive my son, and the lack of effort. And, like you get into this sort of victim mindset about everything's all against you, and you can kind of dig in there. But what that triggered for me was I got to the bottom of that, and it was, nobody's coming to save you. And so, you need to do something for yourself. And I began, and I was literally responsible now, because I had to take him out of that situation, responsible now for his schooling, for his care. I had to hire a team of people. I had to become a teacher. I had to do all this while I was working. And so so that, and then you're also grieving the loss of your own life. Time's up. But basically, when I'm just going to finish here, is what that did was help me share the solutions that I found for other special needs parents, and try and find solutions for the costs and fees and logistical, exhaustion and respite and care needs that families had. And so that's how it tripped me into looking for ways to earn money in natural ways that fit around our lifestyle. So that led to online business coaching and marketing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Definitely the weaving, as each of you have shared, how your own experience very much informs and shapes how you are bringing that work forward for other people through your work in the world. You each spoken about it in some way, about how the grief experience is felt, like how the different expressions of grief in your own life. Let's come back to this aspect of looking at it from the body, from your own experience. How was that grief? How did it show up in your body? And how can we begin to move through it, release it, embrace it, use it? So if you could speak to that, how does it show up in the body? All right. And Alex, please go ahead and share with us.
I'm giggling because I'm like, Tanya's like, I'm not going first this time. So I think for me, if when I think back, it was very similar to the way anxiety shows up in my body. I was fatigued. I had a lot of digestive issues. I was just, I was fatigued because I couldn't sleep, because my mind was on overdrive all the time. And I would wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd have to wake up at 5 to go to work. And 9 days out of 10, I couldn't fall back asleep. So I was totally sleep deprived. But really the anxiety piece is how it reflected back in my body. And I think back then, I really honestly I didn't know, like, how do I deal with this thing, right? I've learned since I've, gotten tips and tricks along the way to, calm my nervous system, um, learn to release the tension in the shoulders and release the tension in the neck and things like that. But if I can offer one thing, is one thing I wish I didn't do was beat myself up for the grief that I was feeling, and to offer myself some self-compassion, because I felt so guilty about leaving that I didn't feel that I deserved that self-compassion for myself. So, you know, give yourself that gift, whether you do that through journaling or talking to somebody or connecting with a community. Give yourself that gift.
As my granddaughter last night, she said, and I'm going to put this mantle on each of you because you're expressing it. She said, wisdomful should be a word. And I said, it is now. So you're very wisdomful, each of you. Thank you for sharing. Tanya, please go ahead and share with us.
So because I was and this was when I had the sober, that I was still under the influence of the medication for quite a while. And one of the things that I noticed, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I am vibrating completely differently than I was before I had the baby. And we were kind of exhausted from being in grief. It's very exhausting. But then my milk came in. So that's a whole nother level of, oh my gosh, this is really not happening. And I had this amazing neighbor who came over to see the baby, and I had to tell her there was no baby at home. Doing that and watching people's faces fall, I did that like a couple of times, and I said, I'm just going to say he's fine from now on. But she came over to see him and brought me a sage plant. And it turns out that if you eat raw sage leaves, it dries your milk up. And so it was kind of a miracle that that happened. So there were things that would take place physically, but the answer would be right there for it. So just like Alex was talking about the anxiety of it, yeah, the what ifs. What if, okay, well, the baby died. Well, my husband could die. My mother could die. Everybody, we're all going to die. I mean, yeah, Johnny Ernst is right. We're all going to die. But when you're in that space, it just is like the constant, well, what if this could happen? And that what if is crazy making, really. It is something that you just want to get off of, but it can kind of start running you. So because of the work that I've been doing all along, doing 4-count breathing, emotional freedom technique, I had a bioenergetic synchronization technique practitioner work with me all through chiropractic college and beyond. And that's one of the main techniques I do, is to help people dig into that and clear up the pattern that's creating that subconscious emotional memory override of what present time is. Because we can get triggered and then we go into that pattern of physiology from that emotion, and we got to get out of it. So that's been really helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Tanya, for touching on so many of those points along there. Michelle, if you would please share about how it shows up in the body for you. If you could unmute there, Michelle, thank you.
Sure, sorry. I'm not sure if I know how to express how feeling invisible shows up in the body, but you know, a lot of the time you either feel invisible because people are uncomfortable with this ability and they don't want to see you, or judgment. When they do see you, they're like, you shouldn't be like that, or you know, like or insecurity from hypervigilance because you don't know when the next behavioral outburst is going to be, or a sense of failure for not being able to make it better for them. But for me, yeah, definitely the depression. You know, I didn't understand why I was depressed because it wasn't me that had the problem at first. And productivity, it showed up in my overall productivity, and definitely anxiety. But I think and you kind of, it's hindsight, right? Brings clarity and vision. So but I think that as I started trying to get a grasp on it around in my mind, the mental narratives and subconscious limiting beliefs and stories that I told myself, about how things were supposed to be, and what it meant about me, and what it was for him, being the disabled kid. As those kind of shifted and lifted and resolved through, my own personal development work, I often say my son is my best, has been the greatest gift in my life, because he's triggered a lot of reflection and self-development around that, including on the spiritual side and being aware of energetic pieces as well. So I don't know, now how it shows up in my body is a lot different than it used to be, because I have grown and shifted and evolved with him and with the grief. So yeah, it's gone from heavier to lighter over time, and I think that's how it goes for all sorts of grief.
Thank you, Michelle. Nancy, if you would please share how it's shown up in the body for you.
I would echo a lot of what everybody has said so far, which I think validates how common these reactions in the body are for everybody. Anxiety and depression and intestinal problems, and the rumination, how your mind can't stop and how that affects the sleep is, those are really the, I think, nuts and bolts of how to recognize grief that isn't being processed in yourself. And the antidote to that is, when you're all bottled up with that, it has to be released to get relief. And so finding support and talking about it, I got a lot of support and a lot of therapy for many different losses that I experienced over my life. And that really is an important piece to understand, how sharing it in and of itself is healing, so healing for all those anxious moments, the depression. And I didn't, but a lot of people do turn to alcohol and drugs. That's another, way that your body takes over with addiction. I probably might, if it came close to that, it would probably be overeating and way too much chocolate. So I think it's just so important to share it, to get help, to get support. And a lot of times you can't find that initially within your family or your inner circle of friends. And so I think it's really important to get the help you might need elsewhere.
Okay.
Time's up.
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing that. And that really ties into a question we can go into next, is that aspect of what role does community and family play in this journey of grief. From my own experience, it was this piece about when somebody dies, that's where, everybody gathers, and not only there's the black clothes, there's the gathering, and, there's the food, and it really was becoming like a social type of an event where you would go there and catch up with people and family and friends that maybe you hadn't seen for quite some time. So there's that societal piece of things. And then there's the inner part of it as well in relationship to community. So if you could speak to what role family, community, society plays in that journey of grief. Alex, please go ahead and share with us.
So I think you need to surround yourself with the right people, because your community, as much as they want to try to support you, it almost feels like there's a timeline on grief. Like, people's perception is that you grieve, you get over it, you move on. But that you grieve piece and get over piece can be this long, it can be this long, and everybody's different. And I've talked to people who feel like they were like okay, it's been 3 months. You really kind of should be over it by now, right? So when you have the right people around you, that makes a huge, huge difference. Because with the women that I talk to, sometimes not only do they lose their friends, but they also lose their family. And then they've got nowhere to go. And being able to find again your peeps, right? And the people that, whether it's people who have gone through the same experience you have, so they understand and you can share, and by sharing together, little by little, you're able to dismantle it and let it go. But having that safe space to share, to express, to talk to others about really what you need, and to honor that space for yourself and to hold that space also for others. um, it's critical to not feel like you're alone, but again, you want to make sure that you have people in your corner that are going to be on this journey with you, but not push you through that journey, to be on their timeline.
Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Tanya, please go ahead and share with us.
I totally agree with Alex. You have to have the right people, because there were people that said to me, well, it's not like you were really a mom. I mean, that's pretty hurtful when you've birthed a baby and had it live within you for 9 months to think that you're not really a mom. But I also had, like, at that time, there's been other loss, but we're talking specifically about that time. So you have a baby shower, then you have the baby, there's no baby, then you have the memorial service, and then it's over. But it's not over. I had one person that came to the memorial service that brought a balloon that said, "It's a boy." And I was so happy to see that, because it was sort of like that was all lost. That excitement about having a new baby and having that happen and going through that. And that balloon alone gave me hope. Like somebody actually noticed that I was there having this experience and that I actually did have a baby. And so having somebody acknowledge that now 30 years later, on his birthday, I'm thinking, this is really sad. I want to look at him again. I have pictures. I have a box that has all the pictures and things that happened. And so I can look through that if I want to, but I can also just feel it. And my husband was right there with me the whole time. So he's always, if you want to cry, go ahead. He's there for me. And he's going through it too. So it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's 30 years ago, 31 years ago, this April. And I'm thinking, that was a really tough time, but I made it through. And yeah, there were things that got left behind or whatever, but I've also gathered all that energy back to me. That's part of what I do in healing, is let's get that energy back. You don't want to leave it back there. You want to bring it back to you, because you don't want to leave pieces of you around. Bring them all back where they belong, in your heart, in your home, in you. And then having people around that support that's everything. Absolutely.
Thank you, Tanya, for sharing. Yeah, no timeline. Yeah. Nancy, please go ahead and share with us.
Yeah, I think, as I've been saying, community and support is so very vital to healing. And as I said, and as Alex said, the right community, the right people around you that can support you in a way that feels helpful is so important to discern. And with pet loss, it's been a very, very disenfranchised type of grief. I'd say until maybe the last couple years, where people are starting to acknowledge that pets are family, and the grief is often more devastating than a human loss. I've had many clients tell me they grieved harder or can't get over the loss of their pet compared to the loss of a parent. And part of that is, again, goes back to the meaning and the relationship, the role of the relationship. Pets are unconditional and unconditional love. And you also give, you have that experience with pets of giving back that unconditional love. And so educating, I think, too, also really helps people understand the importance of sharing and grief and how to support others. There's not really a good language for human loss and especially for pet loss that people, I think, again, goes back to the difficulty, the inability, the lack of training and understanding of how to express your grief. If you can't express, you certainly can't support someone in doing so. And so to me, it always comes back to helping people understand what feels supportive, what to say that's helpful. I often coach my clients on that, how to get that support, because people don't know how to get it. They don't know how to give it.
So true, so true. Such a richness that's being shared here. I know we're soaking it in. And Adrienne, I know that with the live that's happening there, we've got some people there. Adrienne, I'd love for you to, if you could just share of what's number one, as you're listening here, what's coming out, what's really resonating with you, and then as well to touch base and what we're seeing in the Facebook Live, some of the comments that are being shared there, any questions that I have. And again, those of you who do have questions, if you could please, if you're watching live or by replay, please put any questions into the Facebook chat, and so that you can, so that we can respond to those. Our beautiful panel speakers here can respond to those. Here in our Zoom chat, I'm going to go ahead and put our link. That's where we're streaming live. So you can go ahead and just click into that even and say hello to the people. You can come back to it after we are finished, so that you can connect with the people who are there and who are watching live, who have been watching. And at one point the live stream paused and then it started again. So you'll have opportunity to, as technology so beautifully does. And in some ways it really speaks to that aspect of what's been shared already, right? Just like a live stream, we think, okay, it's on live stream and it's going to keep on going. It's like a relationship or whatever happens. It's kind of some things stop before we think, or it takes a different route. How do we deal with it? And so it's just really so beautifully there. So Adriana, if you would just share of what's happening for you and what's happening in our Facebook group, please.
It's beautiful. You just expressed what happened. And I always say this, nothing happened for no reason. Everything happened for a reason. And as we were live streaming, and I'm trying to make sure I'm catching all the comments and say hello to everyone and answer them. And also, I don't want to miss what's happening here. So I'm one here and one there and listening and catching. And one point I'm like, something happened. What happened? You know how it is, the same with life. I have this analogy when it comes to losing someone or something, is this, you sit on the beach and you're enjoying the sun and everything is perfect and you seem like nothing can go bad. It's just amazing. You don't even expect it. And suddenly a wave comes and splash on your face and take you away and twist you and turn you. You don't even have a chance to know what the heck happened with you. And then you pull you back into the shore. And then you're like, what do I do now? And that's that's what I feel when it comes to grief and when something happened in your life. And the same happened now. I was like, everything worked smoothly, everything went fine. And suddenly I'm like, what's happening? Nothing is working. What's happening? Keep the calm, keep the calm. So I had to go through the wave of figuring out what has to be done. But the beautiful thing that we are back live and we have beautiful comments. We have a couple of comments. We have Gina, William, we have David and other people, Adele. And then I want to say one comment that I really enjoy. and say thank you to David for him sharing a bit of his story of his loss a couple of 9 years ago. And he said, yes, before of the beginning of grief, I felt like the darkest clouds, like the end of the world for me. Like I said, it's still tough for me even now, but things I found that help me, really help me is take at the moment, really allow myself to feel it. Is exactly what we talked about today. Feel the feelings, stop running away from our feelings. And those are beautiful because we have the opportunity to feel them, even are not the most pleasant ones. And feel more on the deeper in the faith and helping me to move forward. Nothing is perfect, but then in the end, this is what we are. We're all about feeling and in living life. And also I love that he said, and I absolutely love chocolate too. I think Nancy was mentioning that we love chocolate, so that's a way of dealing with sometimes with things, and we're not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it.
No, it actually chocolate releases serotonin, which is like your natural antidepressant. So don't feel guilty.
No, we don't feel guilty. So David, don't worry, we all eat chocolate. It's all good. Yes, we have beautiful people sharing here. Gina saying, yes, I agree with what Nancy was sharing. Losing of my dog last September, and it was such a different level of grief that I never experienced before. So definitely, I know I personally experienced last year. Well, we had to put out my parents' dog, so it's not mine, but it's like mine too. It's part of the family, and my parents couldn't do it by themselves. So I was the chosen one to go in the room to set, and when he had to put down. And my parents was very grateful because they said they couldn't do that. And my mom, a year later, she's still grieving, and she said, I felt like I lost a child. Not and it is, everybody is going through their own way. So
yes,
that's why we would love to have this kind of conversation, even if it's hard conversation. We need to bring more light in this world of these things that are kind of put on the side and people speak or not speaking about it. So definitely thank you so much for each one of you for bringing the light and bringing the light on such an important theme of our life, because like Tanya mentioned, we all go through.
As Lorna mentioned, that I write about anticipatory pet loss and grief. My book is coming out called I Miss You Already, Preparing for the Unbearable Loss of Your Pet. And it is it's a teaching memoir about my journey with my 2 service dogs who I lost within 9 months of each other, and how to navigate through that. So it's a combination of my expertise and my personal journey, and it really will help so many people go through what your parents did in a different way, and that's my hope.
Yes.
I also think that grief brings up, especially with a pet, brings up grief that we haven't processed from other parts of our lives. So we have, we have this pet who's standing in for us to be able to grieve all kinds of things that have happened in our life. And that happens. That's why I have a class called Grief as a Doorway to Deeper Healing, because it is a door opening in our hearts to be able to let that stuff out, look at it, face it, and then release it. Because unless and until we face what our feelings are, we can't release them. And then they work on us in totally other ways that are not helpful and not for our highest good. So it's important for us to release them. And how wonderful to have a pet that actually does that for us. I mean, that's a huge gift. And people don't think about it as a gift. I know our cat Newman that passed, I couldn't be there. It was too much. He was such a loving cat. He was like our little dog cat, because we would call for him and he would come running and he'd sleep with you if you weren't feeling well. And, all of those things that happen when someone like that, who's so giving and loving, pass, I mean, it's intense. And people need to be able to experience their feelings.
Yes, it's very well said, Tanya.
Michelle?
Oh, just that I appreciated what both of you just said, and you know, whether it's a loss that's concrete like that, or whether it's someone like I find that the special needs scenario is almost more like supporting a parent who has Alzheimer's, who has left you but
Mhm.
isn't there, or you know, with my own son, even just the empty nesting of the insecurity of, you know, worrying about what's going to happen to him after I die, and moving him out of the house, and the process of the loss and the reestablishment of your own identities separately and individually. That you know, that's a whole process, and it can be quite spiritual in the sense that you know, if you I don't know, I think about at the 30,000 foot, you know, societal view, you know, the phenomena that is autism or disabilities that happens on a frequency. I think of now of like 1 in 35 families is sort of like more like the impact of like World War II, and it's going to have like generational kind of like impacts. But I also think you can look at it in less of a negative way, and look at it as from the spiritual perspective, if we're tuned into the fact that these might be change-making souls who bring us here to focus on you know, improving ourselves and bringing a shift to the planet's consciousness about, you know, what's important, that can be a positive overall thing. So I think a lot of the framing of our perspective on you know, I can look at him moving out of the house and you know, being scared and worried, or I can look at it as a development of an age appropriate development, and and you know, an opportunity to grow, right, for both of us, and to experience things that we're supposed to. So that it's, I don't know exactly where I was going there, but just the flip sides of grief, that it provides, it's the stimulus that provides us the opportunity to be able to yeah, dig past that to the truths that we're seeking.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you for bringing it up. And Michelle, if you would please go ahead and in our comments about the community, the role of community in that grieving process, if you could speak to that as well, please.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I guess, I mean, that's sort of for me, you know, when a person's death happened, you know, and showing up with the sage plant, or like, or with the casserole, you know, like there's that physical support, and that's literally why I wanted to do the caregiving and respite homeschool delivery support group. And I had a business, I had to shut it down in COVID, and there was profit margin issues, but I just feel like it's something that needs to be done, because you can't just hire a babysitter and have people show up. It has to be a special type of care, and it's more expensive, and there's all sorts of issues associated. So there's the physical care piece, but then there's also the psychological and emotional care piece that the community provides, and you have to be careful, because yeah, if you get into that sort of, you know, oh, we're in a war and it's them and us, you know, like with the system, and you know, like you get into that kind of World War II kind of like generational negative spiral aspect to it. It can be that the whole community kind of like tips downward, and a lot of people fell off the table altogether during COVID because that support wasn't there. But I think that if we can continually kind of refocus and start to provide those supports, and be there one-to-one for people, and you know, sort of figure out where the problems, where the linchpins are in terms of what's the barrier to these supports to help this ongoing loss and grief, then as we resolve those, that'll kind of like bring the community sort of back up into kind of a higher vibration, if that makes sense. But community is hugely important to doing it, both physically and emotionally, for sure. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be able to survive without my son's workers, for example.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's you know, this topic about community just really, as I'm listening here, it just really, number one, speaks to the piece about why we, Adriana and Michelle and I, felt moved to create this community, like that support for people to on body, mind, and soul of what it is, because we do so often operate in isolation and as entrepreneurs as the lone wolves. So to really be able to come back into this place of community and how do we support each other, both as colleagues, as well as how to in that networking type of thing. So that's where we really felt moved to create this place for that. So for those of you who are watching live or by replay as well, and for those of you who are here, to know that you are a part of this community, of this place that we feel is so important to connect with one another, to let one another's voices and stories and work be heard and seen in the world, so that we can know who's out there. So we're not going through, whether it's grief on our own, but we can know that there are people, whether it's through the pets, through the child, through special needs, through divorce, that we're not alone, that there are people who have gone through it, and people who it is their calling, their work and passion in the world to create this light, this path for other people to follow. What a beautiful, beautiful way. And so what I'd love to do is, first of all,
Lorna,
yes.
do you mind? I'm just going to pop my house cap back
Yeah,
on
yeah.
here again,
Yeah.
one for half a second, and say,
Yeah.
you know, the opportunity we wanted to create was for people who needed balance in their body, mind, and soul to, or a particular aspects of their body, mind, and soul service from a wellness perspective, to be able to access people like Alex and Nancy and Tanya, or any of the other wonderful people in our connection circle. So make sure you tune into our connection circle to watch, because we give a little know, like, and you know, who are these people who are in our group you know, vignette opportunity for people to express, and for the providers, yeah, come to that, showcase your services, so that the people who are looking for you, we really wanted to make this sort of a brokerage point between people who were serving as wellness providers to connect with people who needed wellness providers, and to be able to foster that balance in yourself and in your life and in your business. So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, yeah, definitely connect. As I had said before, you're welcome to come into the connection circle, not just once, but twice, to let people share and hear about you, so you can connect that way as well. What I would love to do is to take a moment for each of you to take a couple of minutes and to share what we've just said, is that power of community. And people who are listening here live and by replay are hearing what you're saying. They're feeling the wisdom of what you are sharing. They know that you have lived this. You walk your talk, you talk your walk. And so I would just love to take a moment for a couple of minutes for each of you to share about, we spoke to it earlier, about how has the experience of grief shaped you and your work. So if you would take a couple of minutes and share with us, what is your work? You talked about it a little bit in the introduction and stuff, but if you could just take a moment, and so that people can, after hearing you share a little bit already, get a bit more of your story, to share about your work. It might be you know, your Facebook group, it might be your offers you have, it might be through what it is, your book, whatever it is. Take this couple of minutes and just share with us, so people can know, she's the one I'm looking for. I didn't know that. Somebody that I know is going through that. I'd love to connect them. So I'd like for you to take this moment to share. And again, by virtual hand, please, if you would go ahead and put up your hand and share with us. And it speaks to what we are here for, is helping people to know about you and what you've got. Michelle, please, if you would go ahead.
Yeah, I don't mind going first. I'm kind of a bit of a Forrest Gumpy type, as you might imagine, because I haven't landed squarely in any one thing yet. But of the pieces that I think are relevant here today, I am in the process of writing a book called Life Cycle of a Special Needs Parent, and I am launching the Parent Dashboard website, which is a continuation of the respite and homeschool care business, only online. It's going to be a portal to help special needs parents connect with resources that they need, and I'm building a connection between that and my current work, which is because I needed, when I had to quit my job after I became a single parent, my relationship broke down, partly in result of the pressures. And I had become a single parent, quit my job, and build a business that was flexible around my son's needs and my family life. And through getting into all of that and doing a ton of business training and stuff, I got into the digital marketing out. So now the digital marketing business that I run, Vancouver Island Social Media Services, as a natural entrepreneur, I do online offer, online event support. So pre-event support, event support, post-event sales, that way. And then as an online offer coach, I help folks, get their low, mid, high ticket together around their wellness offer or any other type of offer that they might do, and then the tech to support them. So the funnels, the pages, the websites, the subscription communities, the affiliate programs, and all of those pieces to be able to build the machine so that it's automated and you can just focus on what you want to do and not the admin and that stuff. Because that was my biggest, I just want to do this, but I got to learn all of that to be able to do it. And I didn't want to do that. So I help provide all of that and so that you can do what you want to do. So that's, and then of course, the reason why it's tied back to the special needs stuff is because my intent is that the proceeds and the partial revenues from those digital online services go to support the respite and homeschool and delivery points that parents can earn, and by sharing digital marketing materials and earn respite so that they can, in a cost-effective way, get support. So that's my whole gestalt, and would love to serve you if you have any digital or online offer crafting needs.
Beautiful. And you are a magician in the most powerful, beautiful way in that with what you do, Michelle, in listening to and finding out and drawing out that. So thank you for sharing your gifts that way. And I also wanted to, the link that I shared where it's the Facebook, and I see that Tanya, you're commenting into the Facebook chat, which is really, really great. And what we're going to have you do as well is any of the links that you're sharing in our Zoom chat as well is really beautiful. And then we would like you to also share those into the Facebook chat so that people who are watching live and by replay have opportunity to connect with you that way. Love watching the connection that's happening in both the Zoom chat and the Facebook comments. It's really beautiful. Again, the power of that connection. So we're thrilled. Michelle and Adrienne are thrilled that the connections are happening. Nancy, if you would please go ahead and share of your work.
Yes, as I said, I specialize in pet loss and grief, and I subspecialize in anticipatory pet loss, which is that time where there's impending loss. Could be soon, it could be a year from now, could be with a diagnosis of potential terminal condition of your pet, all of those things, as well as post-loss. But where I can really help people change the trajectory of their post-loss experience is in that window of anticipatory grief. And I call it the window of opportunity, because with the right understanding of you're going through and what your pet is going through and how to navigate all that in real time, making decisions, how you take care of yourself, all of those things make such a difference in how you experience the actual loss after, especially around guilt, shame, and regret. I have so many people come to me literally the day of they've lost their pet, the day after, a week after, and it's good that they're reaching out for help and that they still need it, and there's lots to do around that grief, but I can't help them with what's already happened and to change that. So my mission is really to educate people through how to really go how to navigate grief while you're in it. And this applies very much to human loss as well. You know, someone with Alzheimer's, all those kinds of conditions are pretty similar. What's really different with pet loss is the decision that we're legally able to make for euthanasia, and that we're dealing with veterinarians. And so that's my other expansion that I'm excited about, is working and training veterinarians on the anticipatory grief process with their clients, because vets are not, to this date, as far as I know, still not educated at all about the grief the human pet parent experiences before, during, after. And in their mind, their client is the pet, but really their client is both, because the more you help, the more they can help in that real-time process of their pet becoming ill or aging or losing them, is where they can really help make a difference.
Right.
And I guess I've already mentioned the book, I Miss You Already, Preparing for the Unbearable Loss of Your Pet, is really a very practical guide, as well as a very vulnerable teaching of what I went through personally with my two dogs. And I coined the term, this will, I think, speak a lot to how I work. I coined the term lifting up instead of putting down. And I have a whole process around that part of anticipatory grief, where you may be deliberating a decision between treatment and euthanasia, and then how to go through that in a really conscious way. It really makes a difference in the experience, and it makes a difference for the pet.
Beautiful.
So the
Yeah.
book launch is to this Tuesday, and I'll put the link in
That'd be great.
for that book launch. And there's lots of exciting rewards for that.
Good. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya, or Nancy. Thank you for that, because
Mhm.
exactly, we'll want you to be putting those links down there so that people do know how to connect with you. So thank you for the important work that you are doing. And I saw Adriana, and Adriana as a doing dog grooming, that that relationship of people and their pets. So thank you so much. Thank you, Nancy, for addressing that. Alex, please go ahead and share with us about your work.
So the work I do is based on my own experience, because when I came out of my divorce, I had no idea who I was or what I wanted. I had poured so much into the relationship that I lost myself along the way. I work one-on-one with women to take them through that journey. I also am going to be launching a group program called the Awakened Heroine Journey. At least that's the running name right now. And it really takes women through 4 different stages of the process. First, it's about laying the foundation, really getting them to reconnect with themselves and reclaiming their power. Then we move on to building strength, reinforcing our voice, which sometimes we lose in the context of a marriage or a long-term relationship, and really stepping into their courage. Then we move on to expanding their vision for themselves so that they can be aligned with their truth and start to really come alive from within. And finally, supporting them in living through that transformation so that they can share their light and they can lead with love, whether it's their family, their community, wherever that might lie. So like I mentioned, it's a 24-week program, 6-month program, which I'm about to launch as a group. And lastly, I am the founder of the Awakened Heroine Facebook group. We are about 600 strong and growing every day, but it's really meant to be a safe place, a place of empowerment versus of victimhood. And it's really such a awesome, awesome space. So I invite anybody who knows somebody who's going through separation or divorce to, join us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll watch for your links as well in the comments in the Facebook as well. Thank you, Alex. And Tanya, please go ahead and share with us.
So I am doing a masterclass on June 11th. That's a Wednesday at noon Central Time, and it's called True Forgiveness. And one of the things that we don't talk about is that forgiveness is the universal solvent for everything. Once we forgive ourselves, forgive the others, and forgive source energy for what's happening, we can be free. And so it's not about saying what happened was okay. It's about detaching the emotion from the experience. And that's a normal thing to be able to do. So this is where healing really, the rubber meets the road here, because some of us are holding grudges against ourselves, and it doesn't hurt anyone else. It only hurts the person who's holding the grudge. And, it's funny, I was talking with somebody one day about that, and they said they had missed their appointment at their chiropractor and they felt so bad that they weren't going to go back. And I said, well, why are you holding that grudge? And they said, well, I'm not holding a grudge against them. And I said, no, you're holding it against yourself. And she went, oh my gosh, that's right, I am. I'm going to go back. I'm like, this is the point. It's like you're making yourself hurt for something that you did. So we need to clear up that blame and shame. We need to clear that out because it's not healing and it will keep you stuck in your stuff. So that class is going to be happening Wednesday, June 11th at noon. I also have a bunch of programs that you can look at, and I put the link into the programs page on my website, Quantum Healing International. You can go there. And then I have a Facebook group called Healing with the Blues. And that is a great group to be in because we do wins for the week, things that you want to celebrate, trying to keep things on the positive, but we also do things about those negative feelings. So it's really easy to do some clearing of those negative feelings. In this little box that we have here, we can do that. And we're connected when we're here. So even though we're all in different places in the world right here, we're still connected. There is no time, there is no distance. It doesn't matter. We're connected right here, right now. And so you can allow that to really be true for you. Don't think it's just a technological thing. It's actually happening. So when you feel connected and you're feeling this tug from one of us or all of us is saying, this is something I need to investigate, follow that. That's your intuition telling you this is the right thing for you to do. Remember, you all have intuition. Everyone has it. But do you listen to it? And do you follow it? And when you put attention on it, you know what happens? It grows. So put attention on that intuition, that part of you that knows how to heal, that wisdomful, is that right? Wisdomful? Yeah, that wisdomful part of you, because it's there. And you just have to quiet those, what we call the shitty committee in the back of your head that's telling you no, no, no all the time. Oh, that's never going to work. Oh, that's not going to happen. Oh, that's not right. That's not perfect yet. I can't put that out. That's all the stuff we want to just like say, that's not who I really am. Who I really am is the wisdomful person, the sage, the part of me that knows, because it does.
So true.
So you can check out the group, you can check out the class. I'd love for you to come to the class. It's going to be an experiential class. You'll actually feel healing happen while we're doing the class. So feel free to come to that. And then you can check out the other programs. The Grief is a Doorway to Deeper Healing. There's a 7-month course of the 7-month Path to Joyful Purpose that you can take with me. I also have a 3-month accelerated healing that you can do where we meet once a week. So 9 sessions over 3 months. And there's lots of different ways that we can interact. So feel free to consult with me at any time.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Tanya. And I've seen that you've put your links in the chat here in Zoom as well as in the Facebook. So wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Can I just say how proud I am? I just love our group and just how great it is to have amazing providers like this. Like, it's a deep honor to have you all with us today. Adriana, isn't it just something else?
Yes, I'm always in awe every single time for having it's, I think who said it in the comments that we vibrate at this, the way you vibrate, then you have the people that vibrate on the same level like you. And I think that's what happened in this group. We're attracting, and the people that come in this group, they are on the same serving mood and mode that they want to serve and they want to help because they've been through. And as you all notice and witness today, they spoke from their own experience. They didn't just spoke from a book or from other teachers, but they also spoke from their own experience. And that is not just heard, is felt. So thank you so much for everyone for participating. I have one question that I want to really address from the comments in Facebook, and I'd like to go all around the room here for our beautiful speakers and answer from your point of view with your experience. So David was asking, is there such a thing as letting go of the rope? I wonder, is that a reality that's needed to follow in grief? What would you,
Letting go of the rope?
Yes, that's what he said.
If it's around your neck, yes, let go of it and get it away from you for sure. Yeah, let go. Let go and let God, people say all the time. It's okay.
I'm gonna go one up on 5D that and say there is no rope. It's an attachment that we have that we can dissolve as equally as we can hang on to, and so that's your choice, and what you're here to learn.
Nancy?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes, he said, is there such a thing as letting go of the rope? I wonder, is that a reality that's needed to follow in grief?
I'm trying to interpret that in a couple ways. The first thing that comes to my mind is if you're talking about surrendering, that's my number one practice. It's the first practice for everything. So yes, letting go is surrendering, and there's a process of how to do that. And my other thought was, are you talking about letting go of the loss?
Of the attachment.
Or the attachment?
The attachment of someone that you lost.
No, you don't have to let go of that. There's something called continuing bonds. And what continuing bonds are all the experiences, the memories, the things that keep you connected to the person or the pet that you lost. And over time, that brings you healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a really important part of the healing process for both humans and pets. Like, for example, I kept some of Pink's clothes. She was a hairless, Mexican hairless. I kept some of her clothes and her yellow blanket. And for a long time, I had her little yellow blanket on my bed. And that made me feel like she was there in some way. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't believe that we ever, for meaningful losses with people or pets, that we ever, quote, get over, nor need to get over the loss. And Tanya, you speak to that beautifully. So it's a matter of incorporating that loss into your life in a way that transforms that loss into love and grief into growth. And
sometimes you really need that physical
absolutely.
thing. I would walk around with a buckwheat hull pillow that moves a lot because I wanted to feel that heaviness in my arms of my baby. And, and it's okay to do that. You have to do those things that are going to give you that kind of comfort. So if the rope is you hanging on to the person and their physical self, you don't ever have to let that go. You love them. Or if the pet, you love them. That's why I say it's an imprint of where love has been. It's still there. It doesn't mean that love went away.
Yeah,
What you do,
I wanna-
what you do have to let go of is any part of that connection that still pains you in a
Right.
way
Mhm.
that is disabling, that is concerning, that makes you behave in ways that are not healthy, like using alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the part of letting go, but that's the healing. That isn't letting go of the person or the loss.
Right.
And I was going to say that, you know, my comment before about the 5D, that's what I meant, is that when I say that there is no rope, is that it exists always anyway. And that, like, when I was holding my mom's hand when she passed, and I was like, okay, I'm a scientist by formal background, and I'm like, okay, law of conservation of mass and energy. There was something that was just here that isn't anymore, and now I want my mom. So where did that go? And that beingness doesn't change. You know, whether we're in the 3D or the 5D, that connection will always be there. And
So
so the experience of that transition, which was one of the most graceful things she ever did for me, was to teach me how to do that gracefully.
Yes.
It is there for us to learn from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I still feel my mother around me. She passed in 2016, and I still feel her around me. And sometimes I can just hear her laugh. And that's the part that I want to remember too, is that she was laughing and having fun and being silly. That was her. So that's probably why I'm so
Alex, we would love to hear your side as well too.
I have nothing to add because I'm just going to be repeating what everybody else said. So I'm just going to be quiet over here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, each one of you, for sharing this. David said thank you. I said I keep my old coat, my old coat for the last. He talks about his mom for the last 15 years. He's still keeping all on that, and it's just because you're holding on something that doesn't. It's for me when I say this is where is deep grief is deep love.
Yes.
That's why it is. Grief is a form of love, continuous showing my love for that person, for that pet, whatever we feel grieving for.
As I said, the deeper the relationship, the deeper the loss and the meaning of the relationship, the deeper the grief.
Exactly. Wow, such a beautiful words. And as we're coming to close to this beautiful summit, I would like to each one of you to think of maybe some words of wisdom, inspiration, or hope that you like to leave our audience today with. Think of that you have in front of you a person that is in the midst of it. What would you say to that person? Alex.
So if someone is going through a divorce or has gone through divorce or separation, I would say that it's going to suck, right? And it's going to suck for a while. But it's also, once you get through the grief, it is a gift if you can find that silver lining. And I would encourage everyone to look for that silver lining, because there are lessons to be learned. There are new experiences to be made. There is new love to be found. But you won't be able to do that until you make peace with what has happened and you grieve who you are, you grieve who you were, and what was and what was going to be. So give yourself the chance to feel those emotions, to get angry, to get frustrated, to try to make sense of all of that. But then start to think about, okay, I have an opportunity to start over and to write a new chapter the way I want to write it. And as you go through that, being able to identify within you what are the patterns, what are the lessons, what are the things that I was supposed to learn from this, so that you can invite something new and different and more aligned with the person that you've become or that you are becoming since having that experience. That's why we have those experiences. So don't shy away from going through that. And it can be transformative. I know it was in my life.
Sorry. It'd be good if you mute myself. I said thank you so much, Alex, for being here and for sharing from your own personal experience and from all your wisdom. Nancy, what would be your last words and a bit of advice, if we can dare to advise other people?
Grief is the biggest teacher of us all, and the more that you utilize this experience of loss, the more you can change your life and who you are and how you live in relationships from this point on. My dogs taught me so many lessons, but one in particular that really did change my life while I was with them and after, and that was the value of unconditional love. And it was kind of a springboard for some, what do I want to say? Some rules, not rules, practices that I really think in anticipatory grief, especially while the human or the pet is with you, is to be mindful and do things that you won't regret, say things that you won't regret, and so forth. And that no one should go through grief alone. There's no reason to, and it's not even healthy. So find support and practice self-care. That's probably more than one thing, but
Thank you, definitely. Tanya.
So you can't get over it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. You have to go through it. And the deepest well of tragedy is also the deepest well of blessings. But you got to go in there and you got to look for it. So you can find treasure in tragedy. You don't have to keep feeling like a victim because it's your responsibility. That means that you're able to respond to what's going on. And that responsibility is not heavy, it's light. And the more you use it and the more you look for those gifts and take that action, you're going to find that well of blessings is endless. I'm living proof.
Yeah. That was beautiful. That was powerful. Can find treasure. You can find treasure in tragedy. Michelle.
Well, for my special needs mamas and papas, I guess 3 major things: radical acceptance and presence over performance. So like moving from like fixing and comparing into connection and being, as a mindful presence and accepting your child as they are and yourself as you are, and letting go of quit shooting on yourself. And then rewriting the parent narrative from, I have to raise this high achieving child to be a good parent, and to having a meaningful relationship with the child. Rewriting your job description basically to match your reality, and then grieving in community again, as everybody else said, not isolation, and being with people. I often say special needs parenting is sometimes like in Stranger Things, there's the upside down. It looks exactly the same, but it's not the same. I don't know if that might be an obscure reference for people who haven't seen Stranger Things, but being with people who live in the upside down with you is tremendously healing, and you don't have to, it takes that layer of having to explain off. So you feel free to join my parent dashboard group. I left it in the comments.
Thank you. I want to let everyone know, especially those that are watching live or replay this, we just scratched the surface of this subject. we all know that this subject has many faces. That's why we say we all at the summit, we do the faces of the many faces of grief of every single topic we do here, because there are many faces and many aspects and many perspectives and many ways of healing and working with and through it. And I recommend and highly, highly recommend to each one of you that watching this to remind yourself that this is just scratching the surface and is an invitation to go deeper with these beautiful speakers that we had today. Connect with them. They will drop all their comments and their links how to connect with them on our live, on our group. Please connect with each one of them. Say hello. If you have more questions that we weren't able to answer you, or we didn't have a chance to answer, or you watch this on replay, please connect with them. They're here to support you. That's why we have the body, mind, and soul, to connect you with the right audience and the right people that you're looking for. So then you do the deep work, because that's where the healing is. That's where the growth is. On the closing, we want to say thank you so much for everyone for participating here, for all the beautiful speakers, for bringing and showing and showcasing their expertise, their authenticity, and their personal vulnerable experience. We make this space powerful but light in the same time. We know this subject is something that needs to be dive deeper into it, and I hope you do it on your own way. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have any questions, please comment, let us know. We're here to support you. We'd love to have you again. We always do this. We try to do a summit once a month with the subjects that people are looking for solutions for. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Lorna, Michelle, my beautiful co-host?
No, just looking forward to hearing in the comments how you are dealing with your own grief, how you can connect with Alex and Nancy and Tanya, and also any other future suggestions about Microsummit's topics you would like to see. So we've been thinking about doing, I think we've been talking about cancer and menopause, but there's other types of multifaceted complex things that we can bring a panel of experts such as the beautiful one we had today here to bear for you. Let us know.
Mm-hmm. And I'd love to, while we're still here, is to give our speakers, number one, an opportunity to say hello to each other and to speak to what this experience has been like for you. To be able to have your voice be able to be shared, to be able to connect. It's been beautiful to watch the connections that have been happening here. So I'd love for you just to take a moment to speak to each other and to express of your experience of being able to share your voice here and connect with each other.
Yeah, how was the session for you today?
It was great. I really enjoyed it, and I love seeing all the different aspects that people are working on. So, everybody has kind of their niche of what they're doing, and we can see that it's all valuable because we are many layered people. We're not just a rock. We're multifaceted beings, infinite beings, and whatever resource comes in and feels like it's supporting you, that's the one you should go for. That's the one that's great. And we have some really great ones represented here. So to me, it was just a beautiful experience.
Yeah, I can second that emotion. I think I recognized a lot of my own experiences in what each of you was saying in terms of the circumstances may be different, but I think the experience was very much the same. And I think that creates connection like nothing else. So I just want to say thank you to all you guys for sharing your experiences so that we can all learn from each other. I think this was awesome.
I'd like to say, I'm as we were talking from the very beginning, and most of you shared a little bit sooner than I did for these questions, and I was really, on the one hand, really happy to hear things that I would have been saying, and to know that you're all kindred spirits. You understand grief the way I understand grief, and that was very comforting. Then I wasn't sure what to say myself, so that was only the downside to it. But hopefully I came up with something original. But yes, I'm really impressed with all of you, all of your work, and we are in different niches, but we all have the same mission, which is to educate and help people heal through grief, and doing it all in lots of really creative ways.
Your angle was especially appreciated. So thank you so much for being
thank
here
you.
today. Do not worry for a second that you did not contribute, because you did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing amazing. You've done an amazing experience with your son, and it's really the epitome. It's kind of like what I've done with my car accident, and I wrote a book called 7 Steps of Hope: Healing the Emotional, Mental, and Spiritual Impact of Chronic Illness and Disability. It's the kind of work, when we do that ourselves, that our clients know we get it. And that in and of itself is so validating to them. And so, what do I want to say? A client just said to me something like this yesterday. A fairly new client, anticipatory grief, losing her pet. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but she talked about that factor, that she felt so seen and understood, and that and for me, sharing, I do a fair amount, carefully, of sharing my experience as it relates to what they're going through and what I did, and what they might consider. That was so helpful to her. It actually brought me to tears. That maybe wouldn't have, except my sister died May 21st, so I'm reeling from my own loss in the family. And so I think, I don't normally get teary with clients giving me feedback like that, but it was also maybe some way that she said it, where I really felt seen. And so I'm sure that you experienced that. You all experience that, because you all have that authenticity and skill. And that combination is so powerful for people. So I'd like to get to know you all better.
Definitely. Alex?
Some of the stuff that you're not seeing in the chat, because we have the chat here, is us talking to each other too. Of I'm saying to Nancy, I just had a client lost her dog and sent me the dog's obituary. I didn't even know that was a thing. And so
I didn't
Nancy,
see that.
Yeah, so you look in the chat, because you're going to want to save that, you guys. But and Alex saying, yeah, I miss somebody and I just beat myself up over missing this thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens. And we're connecting on that level too. So that's really helpful. And Michelle's story just is like blowing me away, that warrior mom that she became, because she had to. That's what we have to do. We have to do these things, because what else are we going to do? So
Well, actually, we
victim.
don't have to. We make a choice.
I mean, there's some of us that the choice is either do that, like I said, go down that road where it's not to the highest good. Go ahead.
Right.
Take that road if you want, but it's not very much fun and it's very dark. But
yes,
that's the
but
choice.
some people do it.
Yeah, they do.
True.
So
True.
in that way, it's a choice.
That's
Does
true.
anybody know how to? I'm on an iPad. This is my first iPad. I can't even figure out where to save the chat, which I normally can do on my computer.
We'll have this all on the
Yeah,
YouTube
we'll figure it out for
recording.
you.
I do want
Okay.
to hear, Alex has had her hand up for quite some time. I'd like to hear what she had to say too.
I just wanted to honor you guys for creating this space.
Yes.
Because we were able to show up the way that we did today because of the space that you have created. So I just want to thank you for that and honor you for the work that you are also
Yes.
doing.
Yes, thank you. I agree.
Thank you so much.
Adriana, are we? How
And
are we?
I would
I think
like to,
we're
I would
looking
like
at.
to hear, I would like to hear Lorna.
Ah,
Overall as
Yes.
well too.
Yeah, just such awe and appreciation for each of you. I'm blessed to know each one of you that are on this screen for some time, and I'm just really honored by your experience, for the way that you are here, and as has been spoken before, that connection. Sometimes we think we're in it alone, and there's somehow some levels of shame or guilt or discomfort about how to speak to, and yet to know that we really are in this together. And it's that those times where we can speak and share, that's where the light comes in. When we talk about something that's heavy, it's in that realizing that we're not alone and that we're here. That's what brings the light. So I just really want to thank each one of you for sharing, for being who you are, and letting your experience be light on this experience today, for those who are listening and who will watch, and for everybody who has the incredible privilege and joy of working with you, that you get to be the light on their path. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all.
I wanted to say this at the end of this beautiful conversation, that I know is not the end, is the beginning of a new conversations. I always say this when we Lorna just mentioned, when we hear and we communicate, communication creates connection, and connection creates creation. And that's why we are all here. We're here to communicate, to share our experience with other people. We will connect with those that are connected with what we have shared. And then together we are able to create things that we are meant here to create. So thank you so much for each one of you for being here. We really appreciate you. We will see you to the next summit. We'll love to hear your feedbacks, your takeaways, any questions you might have. Remember, connect with these beautiful speaker ladies today, and we'll see you next time. Take care of you and your beautiful heart. Bye-bye, everyone.